My parents chose my brother as CEO of the hotel I saved with my savings. Mom, he's more of a leader, you're detail-oriented. So I bought the rival hotel and showed them what they'd lost, making them deeply regret their decision. What do you mean, what? He's going to be the CEO? I'm the one who saved this hotel. My voice echoed through the newly renovated lobby, bouncing off the modern, mountain-inspired decor I'd spent months perfecting. My mother's dismissive gesture felt like a slap. Catherine, darling, your brother has more natural leadership skills. You're too detail-oriented, she said, as if explaining something to a child. That's when Yin walked in, hands in his pockets, wearing that same smug grin I'd seen on his face since we were kids. Hey, little sis, don't take it personally. Someone has to handle the day-to-day stuff while I focus on the big picture. My name is Catherine Millery, and at 52, I never thought I'd be fighting for recognition in my own family's business. After 20 successful years in hotel management in Chicago, I'd left it all behind to return home to Colorado and our struggling family hotel. The irony, I was the only one with actual hospitality experience, while my younger brother, Yin, had hopped from one job to another, never lasting more than a year. Here's what really gets me. 8 months ago, my father called me, crying, saying they were weeks away from bankruptcy. I didn't hesitate. I sold my Chicago apartment, used my savings, and flew home to help. The hotel was stuck in a time warp, dated decor, no social media presence, and reviews that made me cringe. I worked day and night modernizing everything, from the reservation system to the lobby furniture. God knows how many nights I spent hunched over spreadsheets, negotiating with vendors, and training staff. I even leveraged my industry contacts to get us featured in travel magazines. And it worked. The transformation was incredible. The Mountain Pinna Lodge went from a 2-star nightmare to the talk of the town. Our bookings doubled, and for the first time in years, we were turning a profit. Every detail, from the locally sourced artwork to the upgraded amenities, was carefully chosen to create an unforgettable guest experience. But standing here now, watching Yin smirk as our parents handed him everything I'd built, I realized none of it mattered to them. The worst part, they were going to announce his promotion at the staff meeting tonight. The same meeting where I was supposed to present our record-breaking quarterly results. I could feel the eyes of our employees on me, especially Linda, our head housekeeper, who'd been there for 20 years. They all knew who'd truly transformed this place, but like me, they were forced to stand by and watch this charade unfold, pretending this was somehow normal or fair. Let me back up a bit so you understand how we got here. The Mountain Pinna Lodge has been in our family since my grandparents built it in 1971. I practically grew up in those hallways, learning every aspect of the business from the ground up. While other kids played house, I helped Mom with the registrations and watched Dad handle maintenance issues. The hotel was my second home, and I loved every minute of it. But Yin, he was different. 3 years younger than me, he never showed any interest in the family business. While I studied hospitality management in college, he bounced between majors, architecture, then business, finally dropping out altogether to find himself. Mom and Dad never seemed bothered by this. He's just creative, they'd say. He needs time to figure things out. Meanwhile, I was building my career in Chicago, working my way up from front desk manager to regional director for a major hotel chain. Every success I achieved was met with lukewarm congratulations from my family. That's nice, dear, but when are you coming home? When are you getting married? It was never enough. When Dad called about the hotel's financial troubles, I knew exactly what needed to be done. The place was hemorrhaging money, outdated systems, inefficient processes, no real marketing strategy. The online reviews were brutal, stuck in the past, needs a major update, not worth the price. It broke my heart to see my family's legacy crumbling. I took a leave of absence from my job in Chicago, which eventually turned into a resignation, and dove headfirst into the rescue mission. The first month was just damage control, fixing broken equipment, updating the reservation system, training the staff in basic customer service. I dipped into my savings to replace the ancient carpeting and give the lobby a much-needed facelift. Every penny I spent was carefully calculated to maximize ROI. What really irks me is that Yin wasn't even here during all of this. He was in Denver, supposedly networking, but really just partying with his friends. He'd show up occasionally for family dinners, make some vague suggestions about modernizing our approach, and disappear again. Yet somehow, in my parents' eyes, his occasional input was as valuable as my daily grind. I told myself it would be worth it, that once they saw the results, the improved ratings, the increased bookings, the positive reviews, they would finally acknowledge my worth. I guess I should have known better. The last 3 weeks had been a nightmare. Yin strutted around like he owned the place, making changes left and right without understanding how a hotel actually functioned. Just yesterday, he decided to eliminate our continental breakfast service to save money, seemingly oblivious to the fact that our breakfast ratings were one of our biggest selling points. When I tried to show him the guest satisfaction data, he just laughed and said, "Numbers aren't everything, little sis." But what really pushed me over the edge happened this morning. I walked in and found him firing Brenda, our head housekeeper, who'd been with us for 15 years. His reason? She wasn't flexible enough with his new scheduling system, a system that would have left us dangerously short-staffed during peak checkout times. I managed to intervene and save her job, but the look of humiliation on her face would haunt me for a long time. I tried talking to Mom and Dad about it. I brought them spreadsheets showing our progress, guest reviews praising our recent improvements, even financial projections for the next quarter. Dad just stared into his coffee, while Mom patted my hand and said, "Honey, you need to give your brother time to find his footing. He has wonderful ideas." That's when I saw it, the for sale sign on the old Riverside Lodge. Driving home, I remembered it as our main competitor for years, before falling into disrepair last season. I pulled into the parking lot, my mind racing. The property had so much potential. Better views than our hotel, closer to the ski slopes, and a much larger spa space. Sure, it needed work, but I knew exactly what to do with it. I sat in my car for almost an hour, staring at that sign and thinking about every time my parents had overlooked me in favor of Yin, every dismissed accomplishment, every questioned suggestion, every minimized contribution. Something inside me clicked, or maybe it finally just snapped into place. I called my realtor right there in the parking lot. The owners were eager to sell, and thanks to my savings and excellent credit score, I could make it happen. By the time I drove home, I'd already scheduled a walkthrough for the following morning. For the first time in months, I felt energized, even exhilarated. I wouldn't have to watch Yin destroy everything I'd built. Instead, I would build something new, something that was entirely mine. Let them see what they'd lost when they chose him over me. The next few months were a whirlwind of activity. I poured all my energy into transforming the Riverside Lodge into something extraordinary. While Yin was busy throwing parties at the Mountain Pinna Lodge, I was working with contractors, redesigning spaces, and assembling a team of top-notch hospitality professionals. I called it the Summit. A little on the nose, perhaps, but I wanted everyone to know exactly what I was aiming for. Word spread quickly through town. Some people called me spiteful for competing with my own family. Others, especially those who had worked with me at Mountain Pine, quietly cheered me on. My parents tried to guilt-trip me at first. "How could you do this to your brother?" "To us," Mom would ask during our increasingly infrequent family dinners. I just smiled and changed the subject. Meanwhile, Yin's mismanagement was taking its toll on the Mountain Pinna Lodge. Their reviews started to plummet. Complaints about inconsistent service, maintenance issues, even cleanliness problems. 3 longtime employees quit within the first month of his leadership. I heard through the grapevine that they'd had to drastically reduce their rates just to maintain occupancy. The grand opening of the summit was exactly 6 months after that fateful day in the lobby. I'll never forget the looks on my family's faces when they walked in. Mom's strained smile, barely concealing her surprise. Dad's wide eyes, taking in the packed house, and Yin's barely masked fury. The local paper was there, snapping pictures and interviewing guests about Aspen's newest luxury destination. "You're trying to destroy us," Yin hissed, cornering me by the bar. "This is a direct attack on our family." I just smiled and replied, "No, Yin, this is me succeeding despite our family." The contrast between the two hotels couldn't have been more stark. While the Mountain Pinna Lodge struggled with basic upkeep, the Summit was making waves with its eco-friendly initiatives and luxurious amenities. Every detail I dreamed of implementing at the family hotel, but had been shot down, was now a reality here, from the locally sourced restaurant menu to the state-of-the-art spa facilities. It was everything I had ever envisioned. But success brought its own set of challenges. Other hotels started copying our innovative booking system. Some people in town, old friends of my parents, started whispering about how I was tearing the family apart. Even some of my loyal guests from the Mountain Pinna Lodge expressed guilt about choosing sides. The real challenges came as the summit gained momentum. My former vendors from the Mountain Pinna Lodge started receiving pressure not to work with me. Mom had quite the social circle in town, and suddenly, some lifelong family friends stopped meeting me for our usual coffee dates. I even lost my position on the local tourism board. Apparently, there was a conflict of interest. But I wasn't about to let small-town politics derail everything I'd built. When local vendors hesitated, I found better ones in Denver. When the tourism board shut me out, I focused on building direct relationships with ski tour operators. Every obstacle only fueled me to be more innovative, more determined. Then came the biggest test of all. Mom and Dad showed up at my office one morning looking distraught. The bank was threatening to call in the loans on the Mountain Pine. Yin's mismanagement had finally caught up with them. They wanted me to come back, not as CEO, of course, but to help Yin learn the ropes. We're family, Mom pleaded. You can't just let the hotel fail. I looked at them both, sitting across from my desk in the office I'd built, and felt strangely calm. I offered to help 8 months ago, I replied. I gave up my life in Chicago to save the Mountain Pinna Lodge. You chose to put Yin in charge, knowing he wasn't ready, knowing I had the experience to make it succeed. You didn't want my leadership then, and now that things have fallen apart, you're asking me to step in? I'm sorry, but I can't do that. My mother opened her mouth to argue, but I held up a hand to stop her. I'll give you advice if you want it. I can recommend strategies, vendors, even staff training programs. But I'm not going back to fix what you broke. That's not my responsibility anymore. They didn't know what to say. My father finally mumbled something about understanding my position, but the disappointment on his face was clear. My mother looked like she wanted to argue further, but for once, she didn't push it. Driving home that night, I felt lighter than I had in years. Setting those boundaries hadn't been easy, but it was necessary. I wasn't going to bend over backward to make my parents happy or to clean up Yin's messes. I was choosing myself, my happiness, and my future. Over the next few weeks, I noticed a shift in how I carried myself. Saying no to my parents gave me the confidence to enforce boundaries in other areas of my life, too. I stopped over-explaining my decisions to people, whether it was about work or personal choices. I became more comfortable letting go of relationships that no longer served me, focusing instead on the ones that brought me joy and support. At the summit, we hit new milestones. Our occupancy rates were the highest in the region, and we started receiving inquiries from other boutique hotel owners asking for advice. My parents' hotel, meanwhile, continued to decline, though I did hear they finally hired a professional hospitality consultant to try and turn things around. Yin and I barely spoke, and that was fine with me. He didn't apologize or acknowledge what had happened, but I didn't need him to anymore. His bitterness was his burden to carry, not mine. The summit had become a reflection of everything I'd worked for. My resilience, my vision, my independence. And as it flourished, so did I. Standing in the lobby of the summit one morning, I watched as sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a warm glow over the modern decor I'd designed. A family walked by, laughing as they planned their day, while one of my employees expertly handed a couple their itinerary for a scenic snowshoe hike. In that moment, I realized how far I'd come, not just professionally, but personally. For years, I'd measured my worth by my parents' approval, by their ability to see and acknowledge my contributions. But now I realized I didn't need that anymore. What I'd built here wasn't just a hotel, it was a testament to my resilience, my creativity, and my ability to thrive despite the challenges thrown my way. The journey had been hard. Letting go of the hope that my family would change had been painful, but it had also been liberating. I no longer felt tethered to the weight of their expectations or to their indifference. Instead, I felt proud. Proud of what I'd created, proud of the team I'd cultivated, and proud of the life I was living. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. The Regional Hospitality Awards ceremony was the kind of event I used to dream of attending. The room buzzed with excitement, filled with industry leaders, journalists, and hotel owners from across the state. As the presenter began listing the nominees for Boutique Hotel of the Year, I glimpsed my mother and father seated towards the back of the room. Their faces were unreadable, but I could feel the weight of what this moment meant for all of us. When the summit was announced as the winner, the room erupted in applause. My team cheered as I walked towards the stage, my heart pounding in my chest. Accepting the award, I glanced at my parents. My father gave me a small nod, and my mother's eyes glistened with unshed tears. It wasn't exactly an apology, but it was an acknowledgement, something I'd long stopped expecting, but still appreciated in its own way. After the ceremony, I joined my team to celebrate. My parents didn't approach me, and I didn't go to them. This was my moment, and I wanted to share it with the people who had helped me achieve it. I felt truly free. Free from the need for their approval, free from the shadows of their choices. Success was no longer about proving them wrong. It was about proving to myself that I was capable, deserving, and enough. And as I raised a glass with my team that night, I knew I had finally found peace.